All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having an incredible week. Got a jam-packed show for you guys today. We got some wild news this morning when we woke up. Very weird morning for me. I woke up to my first, real snow day in Denver. I woke up to over 6 inches of snow around my house. My dogs were going crazy. I don't know if I'm going to be able to leave the house today. We'll see how that goes. But I've heard good things about the way that Denver cares for their roads. But also woke up to the news that Chris Paul is gonna be shipped away from the Los Angeles Clippers at some point in the next few weeks. We got an announcement saying that this is from Lawrence Frank. We are parting ways with Chris, and he will no longer be with the team. We will work with him on the next step of his career, and then he goes on into some more details that we'll get into in a minute. But Chris, no longer with the Clippers. I want to talk about how weird this is, why cooler heads probably should have prevailed here, considering no one actually is having fun and having a good time when you're getting your butt kicked every night. And then I want to talk a little bit about some specific lineup numbers that point me more towards the stars when it comes to the struggles that the Clippers are having. And then after that, we're going to hit the couple of national TV games from last night. So the New York Knicks jumped the Boston Celtics early, but the Celtics pretty much dominate them throughout the remainder of that game. Some really fascinating shot creation from Jaylen Brown, some exciting trends for the Celtics in terms of the simple fact that, believe it or not, even though the Celtics are 30th in defensive rebounding percentage, they are winning the rebound margin in a way that I want to dig into, thanks to the effort of their athletic wings, guys like Jordan Walsh and Hugo Gonzalez and Josh Minot. So some Celtics talk. Also, if you're a Knicks, if you're a skeptic in the Knicks at any way, shape, or form, last night was like just a giant advertisement for every single one of the Knicks issues. We'll dig a little bit into that. Then at the tail end of the show, what was supposed to be just a blowout as Oklahoma City goes into Golden State with Steph Curry out of the lineup, turned into another intense clutch basketball game where the Thunder just played perfect basketball down the stretch. I want to dig into some of the specifics there, just how good Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been in the clutch this season, their role players, their ball movement, their willingness and to make the right play and knock down shots, and some exciting trends with the Oklahoma City Thunder. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at @_JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. It's also super helpful if you leave a rating and a review on that front. Jackson's doing incredible work on our social media feeds on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Make sure you guys follow us there for more content throughout the season. And then last but not least, if you want to get mailbag questions into our mailbag, make sure you go into our full episodes on YouTube, scroll down, leave a comment, and write mailbag with a colon, write your comment or your question, and we'll get to them in our Friday mailbags. Obviously, we'll have a mailbag coming this coming Friday. One last quick thing, two last quick things, actually. Make sure you like this video. Helps us a lot. So if you just take a second to scroll down and hit that like button, we'd really appreciate it. And then lastly, we have our first playback stream of the week. We're hitting 2 Eastern Conference Laker games this week. Lakers Raptors tomorrow night and Lakers Celtics on Friday night. I've reached out to some people who cover the Raptors and Celtics. I'm going to try to get some guests on so that we can get some more joint coverage of the two teams throughout the show from people that are intimately involved with covering the Raptors and the Celtics. But at the very least, we will be live on playback Thursday night for Lakers Raptors, as well as Friday night for Lakers Celtics. Should be a couple of fun ones there. All right, let's talk some basketball. So this is the latest in a long line of hilarious treatment of stars by the Clippers front office. We all remember the Blake Griffin fiasco and everything associated with that, the crazy meeting, the t-shirts that were printed, all of the hoopla, and basically fake investment, fake emotional investment in Blake Griffin and his future with the Clippers before they promptly shipped him out of town. Juxtaposed with the bizarre Kawhi Leonard aspiration fiasco and the fact that he's been getting paid underneath the table millions and millions and millions of dollars, allegedly, as part of a cap circumvention scheme that just continues to get more and more crazy the more details that come out. And then 4 days ago, the Clippers team account tweets a press conference clip of Chris Paul talking about how much he loves it in Los Angeles. And there's a quote of an actual statement in the tweet from the Clippers that says CP3 will end his Hall of Fame career at home. Well, not anymore. And, you know, we know there's going to be more to this story as Chris Paul has been shipped home. And like Lawrence Frank, for the record, has come out and said that he's not blaming Chris Paul. We read the beginning of this quote at the start of the show, but he says, "We are parting ways with Chris and he will no longer be with the team. We will work with him on the next step of his career." So they're going to find a new home for him. But he also said, "Chris is a legendary Clipper who had a historic career. And I want to make one thing very clear. No one is blaming Chris for our underperformance. I accept responsibility for the record we have right now. There are a lot of reasons why we've struggled. We're grateful for the impact Chris has made on this franchise." We ended up, just before we started recording, getting some more details. Shams Charania tweeted, "Chris Paul and his leadership style clashed with the Clippers." Sources tell ESPN Paul had been vocal in holding management, coaches, and players accountable, which the team felt became disruptive. Specifically, Ty Lue was not on speaking terms with Paul for several weeks. Chris Haynes then ends up tweeting, "Sources, weeks ago, Chris Paul requested to have a meeting with Tyronn Lue to discuss allegations of being a negative presence on the team. Lue refused to meet with him. Lawrence Frank traveled to Atlanta to deliver the news of parting ways. Paul desired a final season to be with the Clippers." Now, there's going to be a lot more that comes out about this. That tweet from Chris Haynes is very clearly Chris Paul's perspective on the situation. I'm sure there's more to it. One of the biggest things that I think about there is, like, they're getting smashed every night. They've lost 14 of their last 16 games. Like, who's going to have a good attitude right now? Who's going to be all hunky-dory, smiley, and infusing positive energy into the situation? They suck. They're playing trash basketball, right? It's going to be really hard to keep a good attitude in a situation like that. We've even seen James Harden and Kawhi Leonard themselves go into post-game pressers and essentially be like, the team's not good enough, and start talking about the role players. It's just weird. And so, like, it's one of those things where I kind of just feel like cooler heads should have prevailed. And we don't know if what Chris Paul is essentially channeling through Chris Haynes is true, that he requested to have a meeting with Tyronn Lue. But ultimately, like, this should have been one of those situations where people get together and they go, "Look, I know you're pissed. I'm pissed too. He's pissed. We're all pissed. We were a legitimate championship contender last year, and now we're a bad basketball team. We're getting our butts kicked every single night, even with our stars healthy. Like, this is just bad. Let's find a way to kind of work this out and try to move forward towards our goals," especially when the last thing the Clippers need right now is fewer good basketball players. So, like, on a certain level, I just wish cooler heads would have prevailed. But it's just weird, and I'm sure we're going to get more details. I'm sure we're going to get some sort of detailed reporting that comes out from both sides of the story over the course of the next couple of days. We'll obviously have more thoughts about that as that information comes out. But what has happened to the Clippers, to me, is pretty simple. It's an across-the-board decline from their stars in combination with a lack of some key pieces that contributed to the team last year. But I'm always going to point towards the stars when the stars themselves aren't able to leverage their gifts the way that they typically do. Just a very simple stat to demonstrate this. And I know Kawhi and James Harden are putting up counting stats, but the actual shot creation data, and especially their effort on the defensive end, has not been the same. And there has been a massive drop-off in the defensive performance of this Clippers team, which is undercutting any sort of statistical success that James Harden and Kawhi Leonard might be having. So in 2025, so last season, when Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, and Ivica Zubac were on the floor together, they outscored teams by 14 points per 100 possessions, a plus 14 net rating. Super impressive. They had a 108 defensive rating. That's elite. They were elite on the offensive end. They were over 120. It's like right around 121 in offensive rating. That same trio this year, that same group, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, and Ivica Zubac, all on the floor together, are getting outscored by 10 points per 100 possessions. They have a 127 defensive rating, and their offense is average. So, yeah, Jason, Kawhi Leonard and James Harden are putting up monster numbers. Their lineups are not scoring nearly as well as they did last season. And of course, there's context here. The loss of Norman Powell obviously hurts. I don't even blame the Clippers for that. They were in a weird situation with their timeline where it didn't really make sense to tie up a bunch of salary in Norman Powell. The move to kind of pivot to Bradley Beal as a stopgap solution, it was defensible in the moment. Obviously, having no Norman Powell and no Bradley Beal obviously hurts them. Norman was such an important offensive weapon for them. I think the loss of Derrick Jones Jr. has been bad for their defense. Although here's the thing, even when Derrick Jones was on the floor to start the year, it's not like they were guarding in those minutes. And that's why I keep coming back to the stars. Like Chris Dunn and John Collins and Nick Batum. Is it the same high-level role player core that they had last year? It's obviously not, due to the injuries and the loss of Norman Powell. But you should still be able to win your minutes with James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Chris Dunn, John Collins, and Ivica Zubac on the floor. And that lineup is getting ran. -7 net this season, that 5-man grouping. When you're getting shit canned with your best 3 players on the floor, with league average role players around them, I'm not going to blame the role players. It starts with the stars. They're not playing any defense. The team as a unit isn't scoring as well as they used to. And now they're pouting after games and blaming the role players. To me, it's been all of it. It's been the drop off from the core foundational stars. It's been the injury to Bradley Beal in the context of losing Norman Powell. It's all of it combined. But in those situations, I always think it's pretty lame to go to the dudes who make very little money and the dudes that have small roles and be like, it's your fault we're bad. When the dudes that are making all the money that are on the floor and they're not doing the same level of work that they did last year, I'm gonna always look at the stars in a situation like that. I could not have been more wrong about the Clippers this season. We're going to do a prediction check-in soon. This is something that I think is fun because there have been like several predictions this year that I've been like dead on about, and there's been several that I've been dead wrong about. And so I think it'd be fun to kind of go back and look at all of the different predictions I made this offseason and how things are going on those fronts. We're going to do that at some point down the line in the next week or two. But this one in particular, I said I thought that the Clippers, beyond the Houston, OKC, Denver tier, had the best chance to like rack up regular season wins and get that 4th seed or be a team that has home court in the first round because I believed in their depth, because I believed in like the compatibility, of all the different types of players that they have on that roster. Literally one of my worst takes ever. Could not have been more wrong. They're just bad, man. And again, it wasn't a Chris Paul issue. And like I just feel like cooler heads should have prevailed here because now you're adding insult to injury, literally. The injury being this basketball team being bad, and the insult being you taking arguably the best Clipper ever and trashing him and kicking him off the team. And it's just really unfortunate. All right, let's get into a couple basketball games from last night. Today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. Big news. Hard Rock Bet is now live in Michigan. Sign up today and place your first $5 sports bet. If it wins, you get $150 in bonus bets on top of your winnings. And if you're into more casino games, new customers can get up to $1,000 back in casino bonus if you're not up money after your first 24 hours playing slots. Win money or get a casino bonus back. Plus, you get 200 bonus spins, winnings paid in cash. Want to see what everyone else is betting on tonight? Top picks or parlays across any sport? The Hard Rock Bet app literally shows you. It's another reason to download the app, just for the info. Tap Discover, and you can see trending picks and parlays at any time. Hard Rock Bet offers new promos daily, plus big legendary rewards drops every Thursday, like gifts under the tree. So whenever you're listening, just open up the app and check out what you got waiting for you. Download the Hard Rock Bet app and make your first deposit. We'll start with Knicks Celtics. Really a dominant performance from the Celtics after a hot Knicks start. If it wasn't for Mikal Bridges just being like an absolute laser off the catch, even over contests from 3, Celtics probably win this game by 15, 20 points. And shout out to Mikal Bridges. He's shooting like 9% better from 3 this year than he did last year. It's every time he rises up, I just feel like it's going in this season. And that has been a big boost to the Knicks offense. But the Celtics, after getting off to a rough start, really played some great basketball down the stretch of this game to get a big win versus the Knicks. I thought Joe Mazzulla showed good patience with his game plan. Like he had a couple of things early on, like he had Nimi Keita guarding Josh Hart and just sagging off in the paint. And Hart was burning him in the first quarter, like hitting threes and quick little drives and little mid-range jump shots. And it was not working for Boston early in the game. They were sending aggressive help on Karl Anthony Towns' drives and post-ups. As soon as he put the ball on the floor, there'd be swarming around him, trying to turn him over and force him into bad misses. And that wasn't working for the first like quarter and a half. And the Knicks ended up leading by as much as 14 early in the game. Cat was scoring sometimes over double and triple teams. Josh Hart hitting shots. Jalen Brunson got off to a good start. Like, a lot of things went the Knicks' way early. And also Jaylen Brown, who had a fantastic game, which we're going to get into, but he got off to a rough start. And so the Knicks ended up getting off to that 14-point lead. But the Celtics just kept playing hard and they kept to their game plan. Like, Cat, the rest of the game, he had a nice box score game because he did a bunch of damage off the ball, like some offensive rebounds, a couple of like driving kick sequences where he just ended up wide open underneath the basket. And the Celtics ended up going centerless for the majority of this game, which ended up also benefiting Cat in some of those like dunker spot offensive rebound sequences. But as far as his one-on-ones went, or I should say his individual attacks, those ISOs and his post-ups, over the course of the game, he just kept trying to shoot through double teams, and he was turning the ball over and having some bad misses. And overall, I thought that their coverage in set half-court situations started to work pretty well against Cat. And then Josh Hart missed his last 3 threes, and over the final 3 quarters of the game was a minus 13. So the game plan there ended up working as time went on, albeit in some stretches without a center on the floor. But Jaylen Brown eventually found his footing, and he ended up having just a really, really nice shot creation game. Just completely picked apart the Knicks defense, mostly with methodical matchup attacking. Relentless attacking Jalen Brunson in action. Early in the game, the Knicks were willing to essentially concede that switch and let Jalen work against Jalen, and Jaylen Brown just bullied him. And he's been so incredibly comfortable in the mid-range this year, just kind of making some sort of aggressive move to get down to that like 10 to 12 foot range, and then just little quick step backs or little short right shoulder fades and little step through short jump shots and floaters and things like that. And he's torching teams on that. He's shooting 55% this season, 47 for 85 on jump shots inside of 17 feet. And Jaylen Brown scored directly on Jalen Brunson one-on-one 5 times in this game, including a nasty blow-by dunk in transition where he got him with a little crossover and went up and dunked in traffic. He picked on Tyler Kolek on a little transition drive, beat him to the basket, just bullied him with his left shoulder, got all the way to the basket. He picked on Mitchell Robinson in a switch, mixed him up with a series of off-the-dribble moves, and hit a little mid-range pull-up. He was picking on Cat in ball screens, beating him in deep drop coverage. He had him in a ISO one-on-one off the right wing, and Cat was just sagging off, and he just did a little methodical, little slow jab step, rose up and hit a 3. Just consistently beating the weaker Knicks defenders in space over and over again. He made it abundantly clear through those first 3 quarters that he was going to be deliberate about hunting New York's weakest defenders and scoring on them. So as a result, down the stretch, when Jaylen Brown started hunting Jalen Brunson in screens again in the 4th quarter, the Knicks just started blitzing and hard doubling. And so Jalen just kept hitting the short roller. And then we got some really fascinating 4-on-3 sequences led by a lot of good short roll passing from Jordan Walsh and from Josh Minot. And the Celtics ended up getting wide open threes every single time out of those Jaylen Brown blitzes and doubles. They made several of them, and they ended up winning the game. And that's the impressive piece of this. It's the game management from Jaylen Brown. That's the growth that you're excited to see if you're a Celtics fan. Obviously, an exciting game, box score wise. I think he only had 4 assists. That doesn't tell the full story when you're getting trapped and they're playing 4-on-3 and the assist is going to the short roll man. Some really high level playmaking. It was impressive game management because of that deliberate method with which he was attacking. We talk about this a lot, but like having intentionality on offense instead of just playing for the sake of playing, where it would drive me crazy when I'd watch a team like Orlando and it's like, why is Paolo ISOing Bam Adebayo on a switch? Like, that's just bad process. Like, even if you want to get to your mid-range game, like, do something early in the possession so that you're not attacking the other team's best defender. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. That's a lack of intentionality, right? And like, that is really the big difference. If Jaylen Brown goes like, I'm just going to try to score on Mikal Bridges over and over again, it ain't going to work out, right? There was a level of intentionality, the attacking of the weaker Knicks defenders in space, doing it in the middle of the floor where it's hard to double team, having the spacing set up, especially when the blitzes started coming so that you can quick capitalize on the 4-on-3. Just really deliberate, high-level offensive basketball from Jaylen Brown. And again, this is a Celtics team that I think they're 7-2 in their last 9 games, and they have like a 126 offensive rating in those 9 games. And Jaylen Brown deserves the lion's share of the credit for that, for the damage that he's done matchup attacking and getting them into their driving kick sequences that can unlock their high-level 3-point shooting. In Jalen's last 14 games, he's averaging 31 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. Just doing phenomenal work. I was looking at some shot creation data. He's been the 4th best high volume ISO guy in the league this year. There are 12 players in the NBA that have run at least 100 ISOs, including passes already. He's 4th on that list. Only Luka, Shai, and Julius Randle have been better. He's been getting just over 1.1 points per possession on ISOs, including passes. Jaylen Brown, fueled again by that high-level shooting there in the mid-range. Derek White poured in another 22. You remember how inefficient he was to start the season? He's 18 points per game in his last 8 games on 58% true shooting. So way more efficient than he was last year in this stretch, or I shouldn't say last year, to start the year. And that 18 points per game number is actually ahead of where he was last year in his scoring volume. So finally starting to kind of find his comfort in his more, high usage offensive role in this particular team construct. But I want to zoom in on the Celtics role player wings for a minute. Specifically Jordan Walsh, Josh Minott, and Hugo Gonzalez. So obviously their size, athleticism, and activity are vital to the Celtics because of their lack of a center rotation, right? Queta has been good for the Celtics this year, but it's been rough once you get past that. And so the Celtics have started to go a little bit more and more into centerless looks. They've run lineups without a center for 312 possessions this season, according to Cleaning the Glass. And they have a +9 net rating in those minutes without a center. All offense, by the way. They're scoring 135 points per 100 possessions in those centerless groups, just spacing the floor with tons of shooting and allowing Jaylen Brown to hunt matchups as they get the defense into rotation. The Celtics ended up playing centerless for 27 of the 48 minutes last night. So definitely something to keep an eye on with Boston as they're going to kind of lean into that more and more. And when you're small, that's going to dictate swarming, right? If you're smaller, you have to be faster and you've got to cover a lot of ground in rotation to feel bigger than you actually are by being able to double a guy like Cat, sandwich rebound, do all these different kinds of things. And it just puts a lot of emphasis on covering ground, right? And having athletes that play hard, that's the way that you get this done, right? And again, the Celtics have not been necessarily winning games with defense, but you have to get a certain number of stops to win games, and those guys deserve a lot of credit for that. They're getting major on ball assignments. Jordan Walsh saw a ton of Brunson in this game and did phenomenal work, played him into an inefficient shooting night. The swarming of Cat in help and double team situations, rotating out to shooters off of it. That is a lot of those role player wings doing the work. And most importantly, I want to actually move to the other end of the floor here. Those guys are killing teams on the offensive glass. Just those 3 guys, Jordan Walsh and Hugo Gonzalez and Josh Minott, had 8 offensive rebounds last night just between the 3 of them. They had 12 points just on easy little putbacks. It was literally the difference in the game last night. Shot goes up and Jordan Walsh just runs right by Jalen Brunson for a putback. Or Josh Minott just runs right by his man for a putback. Or Hugo Gonzalez just runs right by his man for a putback. They're turning misses into layups because those guys keep beating everybody to the ball. And again, the Celtics shoot a lot of threes, which means a lot of long rebounds. They consistently corner crash. They beat teams to those long rebounds. And I've actually found this to be a really fascinating trend with the Celtics because the Celtics are the worst defensive rebounding team in the league. They're 30th in defensive rebound percentage, which is to be expected, right? They don't have the front court talent for it. Nimi Queta is, I guess you could call him a starting caliber center, but certainly in the bottom third of the league in terms of starting caliber centers. And then you don't have another guy who's really a quality rotation level center. You don't really have a traditional power forward. You have a bunch of bench level dudes that are playing that power forward role. You don't have the front court talent to be a good defensive rebounding team. Yet, they're still grabbing just under 50% of available rebounds because they do so much damage on the offensive glass. They're rebounding 33% of their own misses, which ranks 9th in the NBA. And again, there's a different dynamic that's taking place here. So many of these Celtics offensive rebounds are dudes crashing out of the corner or off the wing and literally getting layups. Easy, grab it, put it right back in underneath the basket because they space you out so much and then they crash. There's runways, legit runways for these forwards to run in and grab an offensive rebound and put it back. On the other end of the floor, the Celtics are certainly trying to get defensive rebounds. They're swarming. And so there's a lot of plays where a big dude underneath the basket gets an offensive rebound on the Celtics, but he's immediately surrounded by 3 dudes, and he either throws up a putback that he misses or has to kick the ball out. And if he kicks the ball out, the Celtics can reset their defense and they have a better chance to get a stop compared to one of those putbacks. And so this is the most fascinating stat about the Celtics rebounding that demonstrates this concept of the Celtics getting a lot of offensive rebounds that are easy putbacks and then making sure the offensive rebounds they concede are in swarms that are leading to either misses or kickouts to where they can reset their defense. The Celtics are winning the second chance points margin. The Celtics score 17.6 second chance points every game. Their opponents score 17.1 second chance points every game. They are winning the second chance points margin. It's unbelievable to me. It's such a fascinating little bit of basketball margin play. And I want to shout out Joe Mazzulla on this because you're sitting there and you're trying to determine how you're going to win basketball games and how to construct lineups and obviously every team, it's in the same way that in the NFL you're looking at offense, defense, special teams and limiting turnovers. Similarly in the NBA you're looking at your half court offense, your half court defense, your transition defense, and you're looking at margins. Are we going to do damage as a force turnovers, get out in transition kind of team? Are we going to do damage on the offensive glass? Are we going to do damage by winning the free throw margin, by not fouling and by getting to the foul line a lot? There's all these different little margins you're looking to hunt. And if you were the Celtics coming into the season, and if you're a Celtics fan, and I just went up to you and I was like, you guys are going to literally win the second chance points battle this year. None of you would have believed me because they don't have the front court talent to be a good defensive rebounding team, and they're getting destroyed on the defensive glass. It's a problem. And yet they're turning that into something in their favor by having these high motor wings that are consistently crashing and capitalizing on the attention that their stars draw. And they're getting these runways to just grab the ball and put it right back up in the basket. It's a really fascinating trend. And again, just shout out to Joe Mazzulla for that. Again, the Celtics 7-2 in their last 9 games, number 1 offense in the NBA in that span of 126 offensive rating. Just some really impressive work from them. On the Knicks front, again, I don't want to overreact to a single regular season game, but that was quite literally the embodiment of every single negative Knicks talking point. So, for instance, the easy entry points into their defense. Boston was able to easily just attack Jalen Brunson, score on him one-on-one a bunch, and then draw second defenders that unlocked open shots as the defense was in rotation. Not just that, but targeting Karl Anthony Towns in action, beating him in a deep drop coverage, beating him one-on-one the way that Jaylen Brown did. We've talked about Cat's mistake making on defense. Jalen Brunson ended up making a lot of mistakes last night himself. He ended up missing a lot of those box outs that led to easy putbacks. But generally speaking, in a big playoff game, Jalen Brunson is pretty attentive, and it's more just he has physical limitations. But then you have this other type of bad defender, which is the mistake-making, pays no attention to the defensive game plan type of defender in Cat. And we saw a bunch of examples of that last night. Cat was hilarious to watch on defense in that game. He just feels like he's freelancing all the time. There was a sequence of ball screens at the beginning of the game that I thought were a good example of this. So Derek White comes off of a ball screen off the top, one of the first possessions of the game. And Cat's just go ahead, shoot it. He's sagging way back. He's back almost at the charge circle. And he's kind of just standing there, and he just lets Derek White take a pull-up 3 off of a ball screen. Derek White misses the shot. And then the very next 2 ball screens, Derek White and Imi Keita ball screens that Boston runs, Cat, on the first one, comes up in a catch hedge. So he's not quite up at the level, but pretty close, and easily lets Nimi get behind him. Derek White just pitches it over the top. Nimi gets a dunk. And then on the third one, he closes out at Derek White. Derek White comes over the top of the screen and he sprints out at Derek White, who then just throws it right to Nimi Keita and gets a dunk. So we got 3 ball screens between Derek White and Nimi Keita, and we got 3 completely different coverages from Cat to start the game because there's no game plan discipline. He's just doing his own thing. It's freelancing. In crunch time, which again, because Mikal Bridges made every damn shot he took, the Knicks were right there. They were within 3 late in the game. And like, there were just a couple of these hilarious mistakes from Cat. There was this play where Jaylen Brown gets downhill in a screen off of a little spin off of Jordan Clarkson, and he loses his balance on the move. And so he's like falling down and he's like drifting away all the way out, kind of past the left block. And he's just kind of throwing up like a bullshit little right-handed floater that has like no chance of going in because he's falling over. And Cat is not there. Cat's kind of back around the basket. He had stunted up at Jaylen Brown, which made him make a counter move. And Jaylen had kind of gotten away from him. But again, Jaylen was falling over. And so Cat's there and he has a decision to make. He can either turn around and box out Jordan Walsh and get the rebound after Jaylen misses this crazy one-leg floater that he's taking, or he can do what he ended up doing, which was take a step towards Jaylen where he's not even close to Jaylen. Like he's not in position to contest the shot at all. Jumps over towards Jaylen and just kind of goes like this and just like waves both of his arms up in the air. Gets himself out of position. Jordan Walsh, boom, put back. And it's like those kinds of little decisions hurt the team. Jordan Walsh has made 3 corner threes all season on 9 attempts. There's a play where he catches it open in the left corner and Cat chases him off the line like he's Steph Curry. Goes flying out to the corner, jumps out of his shoes. Jordan Walsh just easily rips the closeout and gets a layup. You're like, what are you doing? And it's like, when you combine that, the legit mismatches that you can hunt, which involves both Cat and Jalen Brunson, but also when you have a guy that's legitimately one of the most mistake-prone defenders I've ever watched, with absolutely no discipline within the defensive game plan, it's really difficult to overcome. And all of that was on display last night against the Celtics. On offense, we saw some of the other things too, like Jalen Brunson kind of struggling to score efficiently against more of like a swarming athletic perimeter look. Karl Anthony Towns struggling with double teams. Teams putting their center on Josh Hart and daring him to shoot, which again, the Knicks ended up burning in the first quarter, but not for the rest of the game. Again, if it wasn't for Mikal Bridges, that's probably a blowout last night, a 15 to 20 point win for Boston. Now, to be clear, none of this necessarily changes my opinion as it pertains to the Knicks. The decline, of Cleveland has just kind of made it look like every team at the top of the East is flawed in one way or another. So, I don't want to just sit here and pretend like the Knicks are the only team at the top of the East that has issues. They're not. All these teams have issues. And I would argue that they have as good a chance as anybody to win this conference. It's wide open. It's basically there for anybody to win. But like every year when I start to buy into the Knicks a little bit, the same 3 or 4 issues come up to the surface. And it just is one of those things that I think is like a insurmountable barrier between them being one of these like second tier teams and a legitimate team that you feel like has a shot to win the title. All right. Before we get out of here tonight, I wanted to talk briefly about what the Thunder ended up doing to the Warriors in crunch time last night. So Thunder Warriors went about as you would have expected in the first half with Steph Curry out. But then the Warriors ended up catching fire in that second half. We got a Pat Spencer show. He was getting like one-on-one buckets, like hitting tough shots. He hit like a little right shoulder fadeaway over Chet Holmgren on the right block. That was an insane shot. Draymond Green's hitting threes. Gary Payton's hitting threes. Pods hits like a bomb to end the third quarter, like a leaning, drifting bomb from like 30 feet. Jonathan Kuminga's getting in on the action, hitting threes, running action with Seth Curry. Seth Curry ends up getting hot. All of a sudden, the Warriors had a 4-point lead in the kind of like early-ish part of the like middle part of the fourth quarter. And then the Thunder just played perfect basketball from there and ended up winning by 12. The Warriors went zone during this stretch, and it briefly flustered the Thunder, but then they methodically broke them down in crunch time. They got a little pass to the middle to Cason Wallace, and Chet just kind of relocates right to the top of the key, pitch it back to Chet. He knocks down a 3. AJ Mitchell beats the zone just by driving off the wing and hitting like a little left-handed scoop shot over Draymond Green. Then the Warriors bail on the zone and they go one-on-one, or man-to-man, excuse me. And Shai just starts relentlessly hunting Buddy Hield. Walks him down for a couple little elbow jumpers there on the left side. Hits like a nasty step back 3 off of the right wing. That step back has become just such a reliable shot for Shai at the end of the game, something I want to talk about in a little bit. He had a really nice piece of advantage creation where he gets Buddy out on the right wing, snatch, left, right crossover, just toasts him off the dribble. The entire Warriors defense just kind of rotates, right? Low man steps over. They rotate on the weak side. The left wing is open. J-Dub's there. Shai just whips a cross-court pass that hits J-Dub right in the hands. Extra pass to Isaiah Joe in the corner. He knocks down a three. J-Dub himself got in on the action with like a really tough driving right-handed layup that he scooped high off of the glass. And then on the other end of the floor, I mean, albeit against the limited Warriors lineup, just stop after stop after stop after stop. And the Thunder end up winning like 12. Yet another game. Again, like as the schedule has gotten tougher for OKC, they've ended up in a bunch of these clutch games, and yet another time where they just look unbeatable in that setting. They've played in 10 clutch games so far this season. They're 9-1 in those games. The one loss, of course, being the Portland game. They have a 137 offensive rating in the clutch, a 95 defensive rating in the clutch. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is 25 for 46 from the field in crunch time this season. That's 54%. He's hit 6 clutch threes. He's hit a bunch of them in every one of these games. Hit a huge one against Minnesota. Hit a huge one against Phoenix. Hit a huge one again last night over Buddy Hield on the right wing. He's just getting into his bag, and he can either go to that little pound dribble with his left hand, step back, or that like little side step with his going towards his right, like the one he hit over Buddy Hield. And he's just really confident. He's trusting it right now. He's made 6 of them so far this season in crunch time, hitting 40%. Most of those misses were earlier in the season. He's been in a great groove as of late. 9 assists to just 1 turnover in crunch time. And like, you want to be like, okay, you got to send doubles. And the Warriors were pretty content to let Shai just work one-on-one against Buddy. But at the same time, like, guys are hitting shots. We talked about the clutch 3 that Chet Holmgren hit. Isaiah Joe hits a big clutch 3 last night. On the season, if you leave Cason Wallace open for 3 in crunch time, he's 3 for 6. If you leave Chet Holmgren open for 3 in crunch time, he's 3 for 5. Like, they're burning you when you help. And like, and it's one of those things where we've seen teams manage to keep it somewhat close against Oklahoma City for one reason or another. And then down the stretch, it's just Shai Gilgeous-Alexander looking like far and away the most comfortable player on the floor. But it's not just his one-on-one play. It's the awesome passing sequences, the methodical ball movement through the zone. It's the role players knocking down catch and shoot threes. Having guys like AJ Mitchell and J-Dub who can hit a gap and create some dribble penetration and get something up off of the rim that they can score on in crunch time. And they just look unbeatable. And again, if this keeps up, like, we're going to do our contender rankings again in a month. We did our first contender rankings update like a week ago or so. And I think it was just last Friday. And in that contender rankings, for the first time, I moved OKC back up to the number 1 spot, but I still have them in the same tier with OKC or with Denver and Houston. If this keeps up, like if they're sitting in a similar spot a month from now, it's starting to look to me like Oklahoma City's in their own tier. I see a separation building. Houston and Denver are really good. There are a couple teams too that are a trade away. Like if Detroit makes some sort of big splashy move for a scoring forward, or if the Lakers get someone like Herb Jones, there are teams that might be able to move up into that tier. But to me, that tier is beginning to look like a tier that is beneath Oklahoma City, as yet again, they get a big win in crunch time last night. All right, guys, that is all I have for tonight, or today, I should say. As always, I sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting us and supporting the show. Again, remember, we have playback streams coming the next 2 nights. Thursday at, I want to say 4 p.m. Pacific time it's 4:30 p.m. Pacific time, Toronto, Lakers, Raptors. Again, I'm going to be trying to get a Raptors guy to come on and join us for that one. And then Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific time, Lakers, Celtics. Also going to try to get a Celtics guy for that one. Come hang out again, playback.tv/hoops tonight. We'll have a live watch along party for both of those games. We'll obviously have more content coming this week too. We'll have a show tomorrow as well as a mailbag on Friday. Again, as always, I sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting us and supporting the show. Have a good rest of your day, and I will see you guys tomorrow morning.